y'all, welcome back to Homemade Simple. If we've not met before, I'm Lori. I'm so glad that you are here today. We are finally getting back in the kitchen on our channel, and we are going to talk about 5 delicious, super simple and easy $5 family meals. I have all of the recipes down in the description box for you. They are all really easy and simple to get on the table for your family on these busy winter weeknights. All of these recipes were tested by my family, and we thought they were all really delicious, and I thought that they were super easy to get on the table. Let's go in the kitchen and get started with our first recipe. Tonight we are going to cook up some potato soup, which is one of my very favorite dinners. Super quick and easy. I'm going to start with 2 heaping tablespoons of flour, and I'm going to add just a little bit of grease. I cooked some bacon to add to our potato soup, so I'm just going to use the grease from the bacon and allow this to cook so that it will remove all of the flour flavor, the raw flour flavor, and then we'll move on to adding our liquid. Okay, I have allowed that to cook for probably about 2 minutes. I've been stirring it so it wouldn't scorch. Now I'm going to add in about 3 cups of milk. I'm going to start with about 1 cup and just sort of whisk it all together to try to remove all of the clumps. I don't see any clumps left, so now I'm just going to pour the rest of the 3 cups of milk. You can use a cup or 2 of chicken broth and then add the rest of milk. I just have more milk than I have chicken broth, so that's why I use the milk. I'm going to allow that to simmer until it thickens a bit, and then we'll add our other ingredients. Okay, this has been cooking for about 15 minutes, thickening up a little bit. I'm going to add some chopped carrots, 1 tablespoon of salt, and about 2 teaspoons of black pepper. I've also chopped up our leftover baked potatoes that we had a couple of nights ago. I'm going to go ahead and put these in the soup as well. I left the skins on just to add a little bit of nutritional value, but if you want to take them off, they're super simple and easy just to peel off. I'm going to take my meat masher and just mash up some of these potatoes just to make the chunks a little smaller and also to thicken up the soup broth. You can use a potato masher or the bottom of a spoon. Anything will work just fine. After I finish this, I'm going to let it simmer on the stove for about 30 minutes, and then we'll add the last few ingredients. Okay, the soup has thickened up a lot, so it's ready for the rest of the ingredients. I've cooked up a half a pound of bacon. I'm going to add that, saving just a little so we can use it to top our soup bowls. Stir that in, and I've grated 8 ounces of sharp cheddar cheese. I'm going to add again almost all of that, saving just a little for our bowls. And lastly, I'm going to add 1 cup of sour cream. I'm going to stir all of that together and allow the cheese to melt. Here's our finished product. I'm really excited about this evening's dinner because potato soup, I think, might be one of my very favorite meals. Tonight for dinner, I'm gonna make some yummy chicken and dumplings, and I'm gonna start by cooking my frozen chicken in my Instant Pot so that my chicken can be done, and that will also give me some delicious chicken broth for absolutely no extra cost. So I'm going to go ahead and cook this chicken in the Instant Pot, and then we will put the rest of the ingredients together. Okay, I've got my whole chicken in the Instant Pot. I filled it up as high as I could so that I can have all of the broth. I have 2 meals that's going to need chicken and broth, so I'm going to go ahead and make as much as possible tonight. I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm just going to choose poultry, and I'm going to allow this to cook for an hour and a half. That's going to give me some really good broth, but it's not going to take all day. So I'm going to go ahead and let that start, and then when this is done, I'll get on to making the dumplings. You can make chicken and dumplings super easy by buying canned biscuits or dumplings in the freezer section. We're going to make our own really simple and easy biscuit recipe to make our dumplings. So you can skip this part of the recipe if you would prefer just to go ahead and get the hard work done by somebody else and buy your own canned biscuits. If you want to do it homemade all the way, we're going to add 1 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix that all together until it's well combined, and then I'm going to add 1/4 cup of coconut oil. I'm going to use my pastry blender to blend this coconut oil into the flour mixture. Now you can see that it's pretty crumbly. That's what we're looking for, is a crumbly mixture. And now we're going to add about 1/2 cup of milk. I'm going to mix all of this together, and we're looking for obviously a biscuit dough consistency. If that was too much milk, we can add a little bit of flour, and if it's too dry, we can add a little bit more milk. I think this is going to be just fine. So it's well combined, but it's not really sticking to my fingers. That's what we're looking for. I'm going to flour my countertop. I'm going to roll this out using my roller, which I should have floured the top. It's always good to remember that most of the time homemade food does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look perfect, and it's going to turn out just fine. You can limit a lot of the stress that way. Now we're just going to take it and cut it into strips, probably 1 inch or 1/2 inch wide. The dough has been rolled out to probably 1/8 of an inch thick. It's going to plump up when we cook it. That's why we want it to be fairly thin. Okay, and now we're just going to slice those into, probably 2.5 or 3 inch, 2 inch. It doesn't really matter, just however it works. And then I'm going to throw some flour into my bowl, maybe about 1/3 or 1/2 cup of flour. And then I'm going to individually place the dumplings into the flour. And what we want to do is sort of toss them in the flour and then shake it off a little so that it's not a lot of flour, but it is coated. We're going to do that to all of our dumplings. Okay, we have all of the dumplings dredged in the flour. If you wanted to start with canned biscuits, you can just flatten the biscuits out, the individual biscuits, and then slice them like we did our dough and dredge them individually in the flour, and it will get you to the same place. Okay, the chicken is all done and the broth is ready to use in our dumplings. So I'm going to pull some of this broth out, pull the chicken out, and allow it to cool a bit before we use it in our recipe. Okay, I'm going to make my own cream of chicken soup instead of buying a can at the store. I'm going to start with 2 cups of that hot chicken broth, and I'm going to whisk in 1/2 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, I whisked all of the lumps out. I'm going to cook this on medium heat until it thickens up a good bit, and then we'll move on to adding our dumplings. I've got that really thick. Now I'm going to add 4 more cups of chicken broth. And I'm going to whisk that in until it's all nice and combined. Okay, I think that is good. I'm going to leave this to boil. I want it to be a rolling boil before I add my dumplings in, but I'm going to go ahead and season it with a good amount of black pepper, maybe 2 teaspoons. And I'm going to put a little more salt. This is really still hot from the Instant Pot, so it'll be boiling in just a second. This has thickened up really nice. It's boiling and it looks ready for the dumplings, but I'm going to add 1 more cup of broth just to make sure that it's not too thick, and it will go a little further if we add a little more broth. It's still going to be thick, but not quite as thick as it was. Okay, now I'm going to add in each of our floured dumplings one at a time. You want to sort of move around where you're placing them so they don't all clump up together. The flour that we dredge them in is going to keep them from sticking really bad, but we still want to do what we can to keep them separated. Okay, I got them all added in. I'm going to give them a good stir and let them cook probably about 5 minutes before I add the chicken. And then once we add the chicken, we will be just a little bit away from them being ready to serve. Okay, the dumplings are plumped up really good and they look like they're well on their way to being cooked through. I'm going to go ahead and add the chicken. The chicken that I cooked was pretty tiny, so I didn't get a lot out by just using half. That's okay. I'm going to use the other half later in the week, so I don't want to use too much. This is a pretty filling dinner, even without the chicken, so I think it will be just fine. I'm going to let this simmer for probably about 10 more minutes just to make sure that the dumplings are cooked all the way through and all of the raw flour flavor has dissipated, and then it will be ready to eat. Chicken and dumplings are perfect for any winter weeknight meal, and I even got a compliment that these tasted just like Cracker Barrel. So make sure that you give them a try soon. There's always at least one night when we need to get dinner on the table super quick and fast. That's what this meal is all about. I'm going to make some homemade fries using my handy little French fry cutter. You can use a store-bought bag of French fries or tater tots. I have found that this little French fry cutter makes it just about as quick and easy as opening a store-bought bag of fries. I will link this down in the description below. You can get it on Amazon, and I think it's really worth the couple of dollars that it cost. I've washed up several pounds of potatoes. I'm going to just cut them up. After I get them all sliced up, I'm going to add probably a half a cup of olive oil, a tablespoon or so of salt, and about a teaspoon of paprika. I'm going to toss them really good to make sure they're nice and coated with the oil. Place them on a lined cookie sheet and bake them at 425 degrees for about 30 minutes. The good thing about these fries is you can just throw them in the oven and go about doing your other chores. You don't have to babysit them or stir them. They will crisp up and cook up just fine without any extra work on your part. I found these sub rolls at Sam's. I'm going to slice each of them up. Now I do normally use an onion roll for this. A lot of times you can find them on the discount bakery cart at Walmart. But I just ran into these at Sam's and I thought they might be a good change. I really wish that I had used the onion rolls. So I would just say when you're making your grocery list, write down onion rolls instead of these sub rolls. But either way, this is going to be a delicious dinner and you can just swap it out according to your preference. After I get them all sliced, I'm going to add 1 slice of provolone cheese and 2 slices of roast beef to each of these sandwiches. Stick them in the oven along with the fries and allow them to cook until the cheese is melted. If you want the cheese to brown a bit, you can just put it on broil for the last couple of minutes and they will look absolutely amazing. I love this dinner because it's so easy to put together and it takes so little effort on my part. The oven does all of the work. I'm able to get everything ready all at the same time, and it is definitely one of those fast food replacements that makes making food at home a lot more enjoyable. I'm thinking about making a series about doing fast food at home. I would love to hear about your family's favorite fast food at home recipe meal ideas. Please share those in the comments below. Tonight I'm going to make a super simple and easy breakfast casserole that is going to take no time to put together and is also going to be very easy on the budget. I'm going to start by buttering the bottom of my 9x13 pan. I have about a half a pound of sausage cooking in the skillet. Then I'm going to set this to the side. I have a half a loaf of a French bread that I got on clearance at Walmart. So this is perfect. What you need is like some less moist bread. So a day old bread or a sourdough bread, anything that you might have. I'm going to cube this up. I'm just going to place this in the bottom of the 9x13 pan. I'm going to sprinkle about 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese onto the bread, and then I'm going to mix together 10 eggs and 4 cups of milk. And now that it's all scrambled, I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of dry mustard, and 1 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to pour the eggs and milk over the bread. The last step is to add the sausage. I'm just going to sprinkle that on top. I'm going to put this in a 350-degree oven, cook it until the eggs are nice and firm. I'll start shaking it around 25 minutes. This breakfast casserole cooked up really nice in the oven. It did take a little while longer than I expected, about 45 minutes or so until the eggs were fully set. But this is such an easy recipe to make on a busy evening. It also would be perfect for a brunch and a breakfast. I'm going to make sure and keep this recipe handy because I know that I'm going to find all kinds of opportunities to use it over and over again. For our last meal to put together, we're going to have chicken pot pie tonight, and I am so excited about how simple and easy this recipe is. It is not only frugal on the budget, but also really easy to throw together and allow the oven to do all of the work. Let's go ahead and put this together really quick and get this in the oven and ready to eat. I'm going to start by using 2 10-ounce packages of frozen mixed vegetables. You can also use the canned vegetables. It's totally up to you. I'm not going to add potatoes. That's going to take a little while longer to cook, so I'm just going to leave these vegetables as they are. I've also put together another batch of the cream of chicken soup I talked about earlier this week. I'm going to pour that in. I also have the rest of that chicken that I cooked up in the Instant Pot earlier this week. I'm going to add all of that. That's about 1.5 cups or maybe 2 cups. Okay, I'm going to mix all of that together. That's well combined. Now I'm going to add it to the bottom of my baking dish. I forgot to season it, which should not surprise anybody. I'm going to add about a teaspoon or so of salt and then some black pepper. I'll just sort of mix that in our baking dish. Okay, we'll flatten this back out and act like that never happened. And now we're going to move on to making our pie crust. Before we continue, I want to say I'm sorry for the little bit of background noise that you can hear. We have a toddler. He is playing in the floor and being really good and sweet. So I'm not going to keep asking him to be quiet. I'm just going to hope that you can be merciful to us and understand that this is our running household, and sometimes things are not as quiet as you want them to be when you're doing a particular task. I'm gonna try not to pay any attention to the noise, and we'll just stay focused on what we're doing, making our dinner. And now we're going to make our pie crust. Now, if you wanna buy your own pie crust, that's perfectly fine. That's a much simpler option. I just really prefer to make things at home. Homemade things are just really better because I can control the ingredients. That's just my philosophy in cooking, and I know that not everybody shares that philosophy. So sometimes I do the easy thing and just go and buy the pre-made, pre-packaged whatever. But today I'm just gonna throw together an easy pie crust, and whatever it looks like, it doesn't really matter. This is a chicken pot pie. It's not supposed to be anything beautiful. And so however it turns out will be just fine. As long as it's a topping, that's all that matters. To put my pie crust together, I'm gonna start with 1 1/4 cup of flour. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt. I've chopped up this stick of butter. I'm going to go ahead and add it as well. And then I'll use my pastry blender to blend the butter into the flour until it's a crumbly, fine mixture. Now I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of ice cold water and mix it until it forms a ball that is not sticky. Now I'm gonna flour my counter and lay the pie crust down onto the countertop and roll it out with my rolling pin. I'm gonna roll mine out into an oval shape since that's the shape of my baking dish. Sprinkling some flour on the top of the pie crust always makes it a little easier to work with. It won't stick as much to your rolling pin that way. I'm going for a thin pie crust, probably about 1/8 of an inch or so. It doesn't really matter how thick or thin it is, just depending on your family's preference. This is where the it doesn't have to be beautiful part really comes into play. Just gonna lay it in my casserole dish and tuck in any excess that I have. I could cut around it and make it fit perfectly, but honestly, the crust is the best part of this dish, so we want to use all that we have available. After I've got the pie crust tucked in nicely, I'm going to cut some vent holes in the top. I'm going to place this in a 350-degree oven and allow it to bake for about 45 minutes to an hour. What I really love about chicken pot pie is how it's a one-dish meal. It has all of the vegetables and protein that you need. It is a delicious winter favorite around our house, and I hope you and your family enjoy this meal as well. Well, that wraps up all of our recipes for this week. I got some really good feedback from my family on these recipes. I hope that your family loves them just as much. I know that you have some really good ideas for winter recipes. I hope that you will share them in the comments section below. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, I would sure appreciate you doing that. And also, if you would take a second to give this video a quick thumbs up, that would really help the channel to grow and reach more people. I really appreciate all of the encouragement and support that I receive from each one of you. I am looking forward to next week's video. It's going to be a winter crock pot meal plan. I'm really excited about bringing those recipes to you, so don't forget to come back and check out that video next Friday. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you have a wonderful week. I love you, and I will see you again next time.